Hey, it's me, Spooky Jeremy. Do you like spooky stuff? We love spooky stuff. A little bit of the spoopy. Okay, maybe a lot of the spoopy. Honestly, we're kind of completely obsessed with horror movies and games. If there's a chance to watch a movie in the house, horror is always the genre we look at first to see if there's something we haven't seen. We've played all the spooky games. We've read a lot of spooky books. We just really like horror, okay? That's why we're making a video about spooky in the middle of summer. We like it that much. The other thing we like to do is make music. In the past couple of years, we've gotten much more interested in cinematic music, music made for pictures, games, or visual novels, soundtrack stuff. However, the opportunities to make music professionally for these kinds of media are really sparse. So when we have time, we make stuff for imaginary projects and put them up on our itch.io page for people to use for free. We've made a lot of different stuff on there, and if you're looking for free, royalty-free music for your media project, definitely check it out. Recently, we were approached by a company called Ovani Sound, who made a series of sample packs based on a very unique instrument that's been used for well-known horror movie soundtracks, including the Witch, The Lighthouse, Gone Girl, and more. This is the Apprehension engine. We made a collection of music with this pack called 8 Apprehensions, which sounds a little bit like this. And we thought it would be neat to make a video about this instrument, where it came from, how it came from, when, where, and why it came from, and talk about the semi-generative techniques we use to make my collection of music with the samples. This is not a sponsored video, but we will put a link to the sample packs as well as to my free music collection in the description if you are interested. With that out of the way, let's dive into one of the most interesting and unsettling instruments in soundtrack work today, the Apprehension engine. So this whole thing starts with a Canadian composer named Mark Corvin. Today, you'd know him for his soundtracks for movies like The Witch, The Lighthouse, and maybe even Cube if you're a nasty little freak like me. He worked on music for The Twilight Zone in 1988 and The Peripheral in 2022, as well as for the 2024 remake of the Until Dawn game, and not the 2025 movie Until Dawn, which has nothing to do with the game Until Dawn. At some point, Lil Marky got a little tired of existing samples and sound effects and techniques for music and wanted a more acoustic and original method for making spoopy soundscapes. Viewing music as anything that evokes a strong feeling as opposed to something that contains recognizable harmony or rhythm. This approach challenges the conventional understanding of musicality, prioritizing the visceral and psychological over the aesthetically pleasing. As an example of an aesthetically pleasing horror soundtrack, check out the 2012 Sam Raimi movie, The Possession. It's a pretty fun movie, and the soundtrack is pure Hollywood, like verging on fantasy movie. It's wild. A significant influence on Corvin's whole thing here was a video titled Coca's Soundtrack Box No. 1. Coca Nicoladz's creation, also known as Drone Box No. 1, is an acoustic, multifaceted sound generator that employs stepper motors to vibrate various attached objects like pine cones, paper cups, and brass coils, with sounds amplified by contact microphones. This inspiration highlights a shared artistic direction, a movement towards anti-instruments, or noise machines, that prioritize raw, unpredictable, and emotionally impactful sounds over traditional musicality. This trend suggests a counter-response to the digital age, where some artists seek a more authentic and visceral connection through physical, often unconventional instruments, deliberately defying traditional musicality to achieve specific, unsettling emotional responses. This is not merely a technical preference, but arguably a philosophical stance on the nature of sound and its psychological resonance. The person responsible for bringing this concept into the physical world is a guitar maker and musician named Tony Duggan Smith. His background includes apprenticing with renowned luthiers like Jean Lervet and collaborating on unique instrument projects, including one with Corvin called the Sorello, which is a hybrid of a cello and a sarangi, which is a bowed, short-necked three-string instrument played in traditional music from South Asia. The actual creation of the Apprehension engine was a rapid, intense collaboration, described as a 2-week lockdown in a small Toronto workshop guided by a what if and why not mantra. Corvin presented Duncan Smith with a diagram and specific requests: a spring reverb, a hurdy-gurdy, and an EBow, amongst other things. So now we know why and from whom this thing came to be. Let's now dive into the how and what, the actual anatomy of the Apprehension engine. So as we can see, the Apprehension engine is just bristling with all kinds of fun stuff. Despite being made for horror, it looks like a lot of fun to just give it to a kid and see what they come up with. We actually have something similar we've done a video on called the Leaf Audio Microphonic Soundbox, and can confirm it's a lot of fun to play with. Let's get into what each thing does. The instrument's foundation is a resonating chamber, typically a custom wooden box or an adapted old speaker cabinet, which serves to amplify the vibrations of its various components. Some DIY builders incorporate rubber feet to minimize extraneous vibrations, ensuring that the sound originates primarily from the intended elements within the box. A big feature is an array of bowed metal rulers of various lengths that you can see here. These rulers, often simple steel measuring tools, are clamped to the top of the resonating chamber, jutting out to be plucked or bowed. Varying their length, thickness, and material significantly alters the resulting tone, producing a dry, breathy, and hauntingly otherworldly sound. There are also long metal rods here, which can be played in a bunch of different ways. Another important element is the hurdy-gurdy-like mechanism, which is an adaptation of a medieval instrument.
Come gather round and I'll tell you a tale.
This component features 2 tuned cello strings that are played by a rotating, hand-cranked, polyurethane-lined wheel. Unlike traditional hurdy-gurdies that often produce constant drone pitches or use a qian buzzing bridge for percussive effects, the Apprehension engine's hurdy-gurdy is designed for disquieting harmonies rather than conventional intervals. The primary focus is on a sustained, unnaturally long note and the unique textures created by wheels rubbing against the strings. Beyond the hurdy-gurdy, the Apprehension engine incorporates additional strings, often from an electric guitar. These strings are played with an EBow, a handheld electronic bow that uses an electromagnet to induce continuous vibration. The EBow allows for sustained notes and the creation of various overtones by adjusting the position relative to the strings. This technique can produce singing, screaming, or distorted sounds, perfect for unsettling effects. Some replicas feature a single guitar string played over an electric guitar pickup, which can then be routed through effects like distortion via a built-in patch bay. Another super important component is a spring reverb tank, often repurposed from a guitar amplifier. This is made from springs suspended over a metal plate. When the springs vibrate, a small current is produced and sent to an amplifier, functioning much like a microphone. The spring reverb can be played manually by flicking the springs for crashing percussive sounds, scraping a metal pick along the coils for tearing, retching metallic sounds, or, most effectively, by using an EBow to cause the springs to vibrate at fundamental frequencies. When the vibration is strong, striking the EBow against the strings or twisting them under pressure yields harsh metallic yowls and screams, sort of like a dentist drill crossed with a chainsaw. To capture and amplify all of this, multiple piezo pickups are placed throughout the device. Piezo pickups and contact microphones are terms that can get used interchangeably, so if you've used one, you probably get what the other one is about. These are microphones designed to be placed on a vibrating body and create signals from vibrations. Both the Leaf Audio Microphonic Sound Thing and the Isobar Industries Arc Spring use these types of microphones, and there are tons of cool videos online showing how to use contact microphones to do really wild sound design. Additionally, a single coil guitar pickup is used to amplify the electric guitar strings. These pickups feed into a built-in patch bay, allowing for external effects like distortion and digital reverb pedals to be integrated, further expanding the instrument's sonic possibilities. We can definitely vouch for the importance of effects with a device like this, as both my video on the Leaf Audio box and the music we made with the sample pack of the Apprehension engine both rely heavily on distortion, filtering, and reverb, and we'll talk about that at the end. So why do the sounds from the Apprehension engine sound so spoopy? What is it about these sounds specifically that puts us on edge? Well, that comes down to how the design is deeply rooted in a deliberate embrace of inharmonicity. Inharmonicity refers to sounds that lack a clear, stable pitch, or whose overtones are not exact integer multipliers of the fundamental frequency. Unlike most traditional instruments, which are designed to produce harmonic melodies pleasant to the ear, the Apprehension engine is crafted to do the opposite, create inharmonic or without harmony sounds. This lack of stability and harmony in the fundamental and harmonics of a sound produced by the Apprehension engine has a deeply profound effect on the very basic ways we perceive sound and how it relates to mood and tension. The clanging, banging, and tension-building sounds produced by inharmonic instruments can trigger screams and startle viewers. This contrasts obviously sharply with the predictable, comforting nature of harmonic sounds, forcing the listener into a state of unease because their brain struggles to process a recognizable pitch. You don't necessarily need a crazy electroacoustic device to experience this either. Lots of horror movies use low inharmonic rumbles in moments of tension or constantly rising shepherd tone-like sounds in the upper end of the spectrum to make us feel queasy. One of the simplest techniques you can do to make music feel unsettling is manipulate the underlying fundamental frequency of important elements. As for inharmonicity of the upper frequencies, anyone who has messed around with FM synthesis knows how easy it is to get really clangorous sounds. And this is precisely because of how FM can create non-standard harmonics or sidebands. Super interesting when you realize this effect has physical properties you can study and even see. If you've seen The Witch and The Lighthouse, you've heard the Apprehension engine at work, but it's not just being held in a Robert Eggers prison forced to do his bidding when he comes up with another freaky movie. You can hear it in Cube from 1997, in The Tall Grass, the surprisingly good Stephen King adaptation, Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City, Our House, and different television series, including The Terror, which is fantastic. And of course, where there are freaky weird sound-making devices, you're going to find Trent Reznor. Him and Atticus Ross have an Apprehension engine and use it in the soundtrack for Gone Girl and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Okay, so what if you want to own one or build one? Well, original Apprehension engines are custom built and not mass produced. However, high quality replicas based on the original design are available from specialized instrument makers. For instance, there was one listed on the official Apprehension engine website for around $15,000 Canadian. You can check Reverb for other custom builders with prices ranging from around $1,000 to $3,000. There are also detailed guides for building your own floating around there, and we will put links in the video description for that. But honestly, if you just want to throw a little bit of money at something pre-built, we cannot recommend enough the Leaf Audio Microphonic Soundbox. It's cheap, super fully featured, and it's really fun to play, as you can see from my video that I made. Okay, so now we know what it is, who made it, and how it works. Now let's talk about the music I made with the sample pack, and let me show you some fun ways you can use your DAW to spice things up. The first thing we would recommend trying is randomization. There are a bunch of sounds in the sample pack that are from the same technique of playing the Apprehension engine. Things like knocking and tapping, for one. These make great percussion sounds and are great for randomization. So what we did at Ableton was place them all in a drum rack and use the random MIDI effect to pick a new one every single time they were triggered. You can also do this with longer sounds, which we use as anchors for downbeats a lot. There's so much variation for the sounds that sometimes you'll get very different lengths. Sometimes you'll get really long ones that take up like a full bar or even like 2 or 3 bars. And sometimes you'll get short ones, which can lead to really nice blank spots in the arrangement on occasion. You can see from this arrangement that the rhythm is dictated, but not the sounds. This creates a recognizable structure, but the audio itself is a surprise. Down on track 7 here is an example of that inharmonic low end, where I filtered the rumble down to just the bass, making an unsettling bed. And if a sound doesn't have the low end you need, try adding some distortion just in the frequencies areas that you want to accentuate. We made use of the delay modulation option in Ableton's Echo a lot, so that the echoes shift in both pitch and time, adding to the depth of the track, but making it kind of freaky. Remember, pitch instability is a big part of what makes sounds unsettling. A lot of the times we tried to create events that were in conversation with each other, structures of instruments that repeated with some form of certainty, but had enough variation to keep things feeling fresh and organic. Music cues in film and games don't need to be virtuosic. Instead, they can be textural and let the action and dialogue on screen speak for itself. It's there to enhance, not insist upon itself. In some pieces, the concept of tempo is eschewed completely, which is an important lesson in how just because there are events on your timeline and you can see them happening regularly, it doesn't mean that your piece has to have a recognizable tempo or rhythm. In this piece, we used a technique that we really like to use Ableton Rex for, and that's multi-band splitting. We took the high end of this heartbeat loop and split it out from the mids and lows. That let me apply specific effects to the top end, like this slow auto pan and reverb. We also made use of the Pack's multi-sampled harmonic instruments, leading to this somber melody. We actually used Sample Robot to make the multi-sampled instruments easier because Ableton won't read the root note of the sample and auto-assign it unless it's written into the metadata, because Ableton is, quite frankly, blindingly stupid sometimes. Sample Robot will read note names to make a kit, so we made it from there, exported it, and then Ableton could finally easily assign the proper root note to the samples and make something playable. This is also a track where we used extra pitch instability to make things creepier. In these ghost loops, we bent the pitch up microtonally throughout the clip using the clip transposition controls. We had a lot of fun putting these pieces together, and we hope they find a good home in your projects. If you know any content creators that are looking for creepy music, please send them the link to my stuff. It's completely free to use with attribution, and you can even monetize what you make with it. There are loop versions you can just copy and paste to whatever length you need, as well as versions with endings. We consume a ton of YouTube horror content and love being able to contribute to a medium that has brought us such joy over the years. And that's all from us today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy Halloween in whatever month this comes out. I assume it's not October. Oh god, is it October already? What? What day is it? Where are we? Hurry up! Okay, bye!